Nice. That's my job. How dare you? Everything's so loosey-goosey around here. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Hey everybody, Kurt here. Another episode of the MF Lounge, a little series where we have our good friends on and some people maybe we want to become good friends with, and we get to talk to them about their personal lives and maybe a little bit about gaming in between. So I have one of our good friends, Taylor LaBresh from Riverhouse Games, and geez, you've done so many things. It's crazy. As always, here is the bar is open light, just to make it very loungy like, so you can tell that we're ready to rock and roll.
There it is.
So. I love it. It's so dumb, like nobody cares, but I'm gonna do it every single time. I don't even care. It's just so much
lean
fun.
in.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe next time I'll get something else that goes with it. Maybe a lava lamp, some incense. Maybe can really get loungy around here.
Little disco ball.
That's right. I actually think I had one of those at one point. I think it's gone now. Just one of those dumb things back in college where it was like, oh, this will be fun to have, and it was never fun. So enough about my life. Let's talk about you, Taylor. So you've been playing role-playing games. You've been playing board games. You've been making a lot of games lately. You've kind of slowed down a little bit to kind of take care of life and yourself and stuff like that, which is awesome because I feel like a lot of that lately. A lot of people are online saying I just need time for myself a little bit, and I think that's a very good thing. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to relax and just kind of get yourself centered again?
Well, funnily enough, normally I write games to relax and get centered. So the fact that I haven't had like energy or time for that recently will tell you like how busy everything is. Normally that's my stress release, is like sitting down and working on a project. I've been lucky to also I really enjoy like audio editing. If it's something that I'm not like my first project, the Leviathan Files, was very audio intensive. It was a lot of effects. It was a lot of like processing, like production stuff. But I have a number of projects that I can just like sit down and like the editing is pretty loose for them because it's just people talking. It's not like there's no music, there's no sound effects, nothing. So right now what I've been doing to relax is I have 3 active shows that are going. There's Game Closet, which is the one that I think we've talked about a bunch on the show. It's an informal chat show with queer and LGBT plus tabletop role player people. There is also started up actually really recently is the RSS Defiant, which is we are 4 friends with 2 missions. The first is to have fun. The second is to objectively rank every episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And then the silliest one is Apple Bottom V, which stands for a podcast loosely based on the Minnesota Vikings, which is where my friend Dan and I watch the Vikings and we talk about them and we're very silly. All 3 of those shows really, like when I edit, all I'm doing is taking out silences, or if guests ask to cut something, I'll cut it. While I edit, I play World of Warcraft, and if it's something that I notice while I am playing World of Warcraft, I take it out. Otherwise, all of those shows are really casual. I want the listening experience to be pretty casual too. So my editing like stuff is not very high, so that I can just come home, jam out a bunch of editing. RSS Defiant is actually really cool in that we are releasing like season chunks. So we're not doing like one episode a week. We put up the entirety of season 1 all at the same time. So like Netflix style, you can just go and listen to the whole thing. So yeah, that was just like a month of just coming home, editing for a couple hours and going to sleep. That's what I've been doing to relax. So
very nice.
Yeah.
I think that's like living the dream, like being able to do something where like you don't have to edit for 40 hours out of your week. You could just be like, okay, well, if I forgot a or someone going with their mouth or whatever, it's like, who cares? It's just it's easy, you know. I
Mhm.
like that kind of thing. So how do you know? I always like to find out about how people get into things. Like, you know, you not being, from what I know, a very big sports fan. How all of a sudden you just decide I'm going to adopt the Vikings. This is just
Yeah.
something I'm going to do now.
Yeah. So I think it's like it's a tradition with masculine folks in America that you like learn like about sports through male figures in your life. Like that's a narrative that our culture like teaches or practices. And I didn't really have like a strong parental sports figure, I
Mhm.
guess. And so yeah, that was something that I just like didn't I wasn't a part of that part of American culture, for
Mhm.
better or for worse. I'm probably for better,
Mhm.
because I think that there's a lot of stuff that's like wrapped up in that kind of
Mhm.
in that narrative that isn't super healthy.
Yeah.
I did come into sports a few years ago. I think the 2015 Super Bowl, I was on Twitter, and I maybe 2016, but like just getting into like the social circles that I am in now, and like have been really empowering the friendships that I've made there. um and there is someone on Twitter who is Brandon Leon Gambetta. B Leon Gambetta on Twitter, I think, is his at right now. And he was doing just like a nerd Super Bowl tweet along. Um, and it was just something silly to like get in. I was at my partner's dad's house watching the game just because that's what we were doing, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just like fun to goof off on Twitter and like watch this football game. And Brandon was not just doing like, oh, he fumbled, that's a roll in a one, but like kind of also talking a little bit about the storylines that were going in, and like realizing that there is an emergent story beyond just like who is passing the football and catching the football.
Mhm.
um Got me really hooked into it, I think, for the first time like ever. Um, and I have a friend, Dan, who makes Apple Bottom V with me, um, who is really, really into football, like not just the Vikings, but like every single team. And I was like, Dan, help me with this. And so I started just like watching the games with Dan and tweeting about the games. This was back when like Twitter's thread stuff was a little bit cooler, where
Mhm.
like if you made a tweet and you tagged someone in it, and then you replied to your own tweet, it would keep the tag. And so this was like a fun way to like get silly, watch the game with a bunch of friends who are not in the same spot, and I would just like tag 4 or 5 people and just have fun watching a game.
Mhm.
Now you have to like manually add, and I've stopped doing live tweets at games just because like if you're not getting the notifications for it, there's no one that's like going out and seeking this content. But like
Mhm.
back then it was like everyone was getting like little pops up on their screen when things would happen. So I'm a little sad about that on Twitter. But yeah, it was just like I think being in the right time and place online, um, and then also having friends in real life who are excited about that, um, has helped a lot. And I've really like fallen down the well of the Minnesota Vikings,
Nice.
where I am like I'm paying attention to all the I call them like the storylines that are happening off screen, and like I refer to players as characters because like if you think about it, like that's the story, like that it's a TV show.
Mhm.
It's I mean there's drama, there's like highs and lows. You like I don't spend an entire hour just talking about football with you, Kurt. Like I don't um but yeah, I think that's something that really, really drew me in. Whereas before, like if I had not gotten into sports this way, I don't think that I would have had this same like perspective, and it would
Mhm.
have been more of like a you know whose team is better, or like whatever your like traditional cliche
Mhm.
football
Mhm.
BS
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that in that whole thing, because if you think about it, they're kind of, you know, they're basically TV stars that they just play a sport with it, you know. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, a lot of people, you know, and I think it's gotten, I think with like social media and kind of online stuff now, it's gotten more to that aspect now, because you get to see into these players' lives, where before it was just like, it's like, oh, big guy smash other big guy, it's like, who cares, or, maybe if you were actually watching it, you were just like, okay, this is my team, blah, blah, blah. But you maybe didn't care about the players as much, because you're just like, I don't know anything about them except for this guy's really good at catching the ball. This guy's really good at throwing the ball, and I like that aspect of like, oh, okay, now it's like, this person does this, but he's also a humanitarian, and it's like, you wouldn't know that unless you had social media, because it's like, you wouldn't be able to research that. So.
Like our tight end is like number 82, Kyle Rudolph. He is one of the greatest like genuinely one of the greatest people alive. Like outside of the game, he does a lot of community outreach with children's hospitals in Minnesota. And not like I'm going to go and like tell the photographers. He's there every weekend, donating time and money to these kids who, like, they're sick. They, I'm sure, don't get out, but like having a football star come and like be there. And he also like he volunteers his time, like reading and doing outreach with families, and like being aware of this. My sister used to work for the hospital that he would come and volunteer for, just on opposite shifts. So she never got to see him, but just like having that presence and perspective is something. And please trust me, there are a lot of issues with the NFL, a lot of them.
Yeah, I think we've all seen that, especially recently.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows, but like when you can like find those moments in the story, and I don't know, it feels dramatic to me in the same way that like watching Game of Thrones feels dramatic.
That's awesome. Oh, that's a lot of serious stuff. Holy smokes. I like it though.
Yeah.
So I was going to start with this question, but we got into this other story, which was awesome. But I always like to ask everybody that comes on, like, what's something that's happened in your life, maybe that, it's become happenstance, or just something that was like unique or fun, or like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me, that no one would know about you. At least people people that aren't personal friends of yours.
Yeah. Give me a moment. I got to think about that. I think there's a few of them. Nice. So I really like the outdoors. I love the forests. I love rivers, lakes, oceans. Like, I wish that I could get into gardening. I live in an apartment right now, so I can't. But when I was a kid, but back when I had disposable income and nowhere to be, I would go camping a lot, especially over the summers, doing like big camping trips. There's a space in northern Minnesota, like on the Minnesota-Canada border, called the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. It's one of our nation's like largest national parks. It is incredible. Minnesota prides itself on the amount of lakes and rivers that it has. That the Boundary Waters is where it has the majority of them.
Yeah.
It's like Swiss cheese up there. It rules. And every summer from, I think, when I was like 11 until graduating high school, I would go up north to the Boundary Waters. And the longest time that I ever spent up there was 22 days straight camping.
Holy smokes.
And it rained every single day except for day 13.
Of course.
Yeah.
The luckiest day.
Right. Yep. Like we woke up day 13 and it wasn't raining, and we were all like, what's our agenda today? Scrap it. Everything up. We're drying everything. Because when stuff's wet, it weighs twice as much as it does when it's dry.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That's fun.
So we're carrying these giant packs that are like 80 to 100 pounds each. And they're just soggy, sopping wet. Day 13, we're like, we got to dry these things out so that they weigh half as much. Yeah, that was a wild trip. And so I say this not because this is the anecdote that I am going to share, but for the longest time, I could not eat peanut butter. Whiplash. So it's not that I was allergic. I just like, I hated it. And it stems from this 22-day trip to the Boundary Waters. Because if you carry food into the Boundary Waters, you have to either eat it or you have to carry it back out. And again, when something is wet, it weighs much, much more than it does dry. So all of this food that we have is dried food. And we made a peanut butter noodle dish on one of the days and misread the recipe and made 8 times as much as we meant to.
Oh no.
Yep. And so we ate our food and then went, there's more. And our options were, we could either eat it or we could spend the time to dig 2 feet down and bury it. Because if you just toss food in the Boundary Waters, the bears will come. And
especially a lot of peanut butter. I'm sure they would love that.
Yeah. So it was eat this food or do a bunch of work or risk bears. And it was already dark. So we ate 8 times as much food as we wanted to. No. And I got horrendously sick. And so for the next 15 years, I could not, the smell of peanut butter made me nauseous. Mm-hmm. The taste of peanut butter made me nauseous. I could tell if anything had peanut butter in it. That's how sensitive I was. Mm-hmm. And then about 2 years ago, my partner Lauren and I were watching the television show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And there's an episode where Captain Holt, who is this very straight-faced, I don't want to say bland, but like dry character. Yeah, thank you. Is trying to make a meal for his husband Kevin, and trying to get one of the other characters to teach him how to cook, but having difficulty because he's so dry, doesn't care about food or whatever. And the foodie character, Charles, asks Captain Holt, well, what is your favorite meal? And Captain Holt says, peanut butter sandwich, because it's easy to make and has all of the nutritious, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I just looked at Lauren and I said, I could really go for a PB&J right now. And it fell off of my chair because that was the first time in 15 years that I was like, I could eat peanut butter right now. And like that, my whole thing was just gone.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you were able to overcome that because, good Lord, holy smokes, wow. Well, I can't even imagine. I love peanut butter, and that would just I think that would ruin your life.
I love it, but I hated it for 15 years.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can't even imagine, especially in a nice warm dish. It's that's just yeah. After a while, it's yeah, you're just eating muck. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. So one of the things that I think you pride yourself on that we've seen on Twitter, if you follow Taylor online, is that he really loves a good hot dish. So, what is this something that you've always been able to do yourself? Is it something that your parents taught you or your grandma taught you? And then it was just I'm just going to carry on this tradition forever because this is the best thing ever. How did that come about?
So, hot dish is a Minnesota regional casserole. Most people from Minnesota will either just don't give a shit about a hot dish, or they will fight you to the death if you call it a casserole. I don't really care. But it is something that's specific to Minnesota, is the I don't want to say the culture of hot dish, but it's a thing here. And people will have hot dish celebrations. Everyone has their hot dish recipes. I got a majority of mine from my grandma. There are 2 people that taught me how to cook. My grandma and my dad. My dad taught me how to cook breakfast food and grill. My grandma taught me how to make hot dish and meatballs. My grandpa taught me how to cook fish, but I'm still not great at that, so I don't count it. but yeah, it's my grandma has a bunch of hot dish recipes that you just like learn how to make because my grandparents live in North Minnesota, like 4 hours north of the city. Um, and they just like they live in a tiny little shack in the woods and they make hot dish and it's great. They make maple syrup and pickles. It rules. But anyway, yeah, hot dish is just like this thing that I always knew how to make growing up. Um, and the thing that I love about hot dish is that it's like there's no real recipe for it. Um, I'm gonna go off on a weird tangent here. In the 90s, our public broadcast television channel, TPT Channel 2, aired a publicly funded with taxpayer money comedy special called How to Talk Minnesotan. And it's based off of the book by Howard Moore. Uh, and it has my favorite hot dish recipe in it. And I have it essentially memorized. And that recipe is 2 pounds of pulverized meat, limp vegetables, 2 cans of Campbell's cream of XYZ soup, and then something crunchy to put on the top. It better be either French's onions or tater tots. Otherwise, you're probably up against the council. You got to get permits for French fries. You throw it all together and you cook somewhere between 400 and 700 degrees for an hour or until the smoke alarm goes off. And that's hot dish. And it's this template that I think the reason why it's taken off in Minnesota is that it's this template that you can use for anything. Like you can make whatever you want hot dish. My favorite recipe comes to me from friend Richard Kreutz-Landry, who's my co-developer on Descent into Midnight, who came up with a San Diego hot dish with carne asada, jalapenos, like Southwest bean and bacon soup and tater tots, and it rules. It's incredible. Like, and that's the thing that I love about hot dish is people taking it and saying like, I love this and I love this food. I'm gonna make this food a hot dish. So like whenever I hang out with friends or if I'm staying with people or if people are staying with us, I ask like, what's your favorite food? I want to make that a hot dish. So like I've done a hot dish Italiana with spicy Italian sausage, mushrooms and bell peppers, with like an Alfredo soup mix. And that rules. That's Lauren's favorite hot dish. I have a cheeseburger hot dish, which is incredible, with ground beef, tomatoes, and spinach and onions. Spinach because lettuce turns into liquid when you make hot dish, but spinach retains a little bit some of its form. Maybe kale, I think I could see doing in that, and then like a beer cheese soup. So when you take a bite of it, it's like literally you're biting into a cheeseburger.
Nice.
That's the one that I have to get the permit for because I use fries instead of hot dish or tater tots with that. Yeah, you can make like literally anything with hot dish, and there is this culture of like improvisation and creativity with it. My grandma has a recipe for ketchup surprise hot dish, which she has not revealed to me. I strongly suspect that it has the same stuff that she puts into her meatballs because it tastes similar, and both are really good with ketchup. Although we don't normally have the meatballs with ketchup. We have that with gravy. I'm getting beside the point, but yeah, hot dish rules.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because when it comes to family cooking and like it just happens, it feels like everywhere. It's always like, okay, I will teach you these things, but I'm not going to teach you everything because you must learn on your own. You know, it's like Yoda passing something down. You know, it's like I will give you almost every single thing, but there's going to be this one key that you're going to have to unlock because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I always love because my wife has a book, and it's not her mom's, but her mom's family recipe book. Okay, everybody's got this book, and it's like every recipe on it, except for sometimes when you go and you're like like Tracy will start making it, or or like I'll help and I'll be like adding this stuff, and then we'll eat it. We'll be like, there's something missing here. What's missing? And then she'll call up her mom and she'll be like, okay, mom, I made it like this, but it's missing something. And she'll be like, oh, you forgot this. Okay, why is it on the recipe?
Yeah.
I don't know. And like you're so full of crap. I know
Yeah.
I know it. It's just it makes me giggle. It's a fun little like life lesson that hands down from generation to generation, and it's fun. It's fun and awesome. Whew, excuse me. Geez, I got some other questions for you that I was thinking about today, and of course, today's been such a long day. You know what? I'm gonna skip to one that I always like to ask too. I like to talk about music. What's something life just gets busy. Life gets busy, and there's just always a lot going on. What's something when you're at the end of your rope, you're at the end of your day, you just want to sit and relax? I'm going to add it to this one. I'm going to say this one first. You want to relax and just enjoy yourself. What's something the first thing that you're going to put
on? So I have very strong Minnesota pride. So please take that into what I say Lizzo, and say that, I will be playing Lizzo like every single day. We love her in Minnesota. I'm sure that the nation loves her, but like she has such love for being a Minnesota artist. And she worked with Prince. She was here. Like she's put her time in, I guess. I don't know. Like she doesn't need our validation. She rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I'm feeling down, Lizzo's the first thing that I'm going to jump on my playlist. Her songs have such a strong like feeling of self-love, that it's just like it's healing. It really, really is awesome.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that, because that like literally is one her first single here. That's the big single right now. That's like one of Logan's favorite songs right now. You can't get that out of him right now. He's just like, we're just gonna listen to this 52 times. Well,
yep.
Of course we are. That's awesome. So okay, so then going from that, like what's something when somebody puts on a certain kind of music, you say, this is my identity. This group or this person is me in a nutshell.
I guess I don't really I don't super identify with music in that way. Like I don't have like my band or whatever. Like if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said like, I played bass my whole life. So I was really like into bands that had a lot of like really good bass. And I am also a white dude who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. So I would have said Primus or Rush. Like those would have been my answers. Now I don't really know that I have like a band that I jive with, or anything that I really like tie to my identity in that way.
Gotcha.
There are definitely artists or bands that I will like always enjoy. I think like it's something that I've picked up on from being in a relationship with my partner, that the Who is always just like, I'm always going to the Who for stuff. Like I think that they're one of the greatest rock bands ever. And their stuff is really awesome. We got a chance to see the Alamo Drafthouse by us was playing Quadrophenia, the movie, recently, and we went to see that. I had never seen it before. Lauren has seen it millions of times, and we got to watch it on the big screen. That was an experience. The Who also has one of my favorite movies in the entire history of film, and it's also absolutely my favorite documentary ever made. It's called The Kids Are All Right. I think it was made in 1979. And the entire documentary is concert footage and interview footage. There's no voiceover. It's not chronological. It is just like stream of conscious rock and roll, and like the story of the Who kind of in this surreal like burst. It's got just like, it has really good concert footage. It has really amazing interviews from all of everyone, and it does a decent job at like giving you the story of the Who without telling you the story of the Who. And it rules. It also has my favorite concert footage of A, the Who, and B, of like rock and roll, which is the the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, I think is what it's called, where in the 70s or 80s, the 70s, because it was 79, it couldn't have been the 80s. In the 70s, Mick Jagger was like, I want to throw a look at me party where I'm going to invite my friends who are into music to come and play, and then the Rolling Stones are going to headline it, and then we'll release it as like a concert DVD, and like it'll be the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, because like we're hip and groovy, man. And everybody outperformed the Stones. Like it was like everybody outperformed the Stones. Yoko Ono was there and just screamed for 7 minutes and did better than the Stones. But Mick Jagger told everyone, like, you can play one song, maybe two if they're short, and that'll be good. And then the Rolling Stones got like 5 or 6 songs they played for an hour, and it sucked. But Pete Townsend was like, we get one song, right? And Mick Jagger was like, yeah, you get one song. And Pete was like, one song. Yeah, just one song. And they had just written a quick one while he's away, which was a filler. They needed something to put on the other side of an album. And it was they needed to fill 10 minutes. And their like manager or somebody was like, well, that's 4 minutes or 4 songs that are 2 minutes 50. And Pete was like, I don't want to write 4 songs. Can I just write one and make it 10 minutes long? And that's the story of the mini opera, which is one song that's 10 minutes made up of like 4 or 5 bits.
Yeah.
And they played a quick one while he's away at the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. And it's the best performance that they've given of that song. It starts and it just ramps up and builds and builds and builds. And like Keith Moon, their drummer, is the best drummer like in the history of people playing the drums. And it's just like wild, frenetic energy pounding on his drums when they're like, he pours beer on them at one point. So when he like does a big number, it splashes. He's wearing this like weird rainbow glittery sequined unitard, and they're doing the Who thing, which the Who was the first band to popularize like smashing your stuff, and like they're causing this scene. They didn't have enough money to like buy cellists for like the song, so they just, and this is true for every rendition of the song, they just sing cello for a while. So they go cello, 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 cello. And that's part of it. So it's just this like train wreck of a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And Mick Jagger was furious because like everyone outperformed. I can't stress this enough. The Stones sucked, but like Jethro Tull was there and ruled. Taj Mahal was there and ruled. Again, Yoko Ono screamed for 7 minutes and it ruled. And then the Stones came on and were super boring because everyone was tired and wanted to go home. Because they had been filming for like 14 hours. But yeah, so the Who embarrass Mick Jagger, and he sits on the footage for like 20 years and like finally releases it. But the only place that you could get it was in The Kids Are All Right. And it's one of the focal points of that movie is that entire scene. Most of the other concert footage is like 2 or 3 minutes long. This is the full like 12-minute set. Nice. And it rules. So yeah, that whatever the question was, that's the answer.
That's awesome. Oh my God. That's funny. Let's go on another tangent, shall we? Sure. So you just took on a new job. So just without explaining it in great detail, just the short version, what do you do right now?
I'm a logistics analyst. So I look at, we have our customers and we have our suppliers, and we have to get our products from our suppliers to our customers. And so it's my job to look at a bunch of spreadsheets and play with numbers and math to figure out the best way of doing that, because it costs us money to produce our products, and it costs us money to ship our products. And the less that we can pay to produce it and the less that we can pay to ship it means that we put more money in our pocket. Nice. So I'm someone who rings the sponge so we get more pennies out of every single sale.
Nice. So say tomorrow you get to pick anything that you want for a job and leave this job behind and make as much money as possible to make you happy, whatever that may be. Tons of money, not very much, whatever. What's your dream job?
My dream job is actually what I do for my hobby, which both rules and also sucks. It sucks because I spend a lot of my day going, man, I wish I could be writing games, or I wish I could be like recording or editing or, you know, doing layout. That's something that I've discovered is really, really fun, is just like making stuff look pretty. Like finding nice stock photography for games, or like laying it out in certain ways, or like just like making a visual design that can carry a message the same way that like mechanical design can. And also just like the act of writing, like sitting down and just jamming out a bunch of words feels really, really good. But it takes a lot of energy to do that. And when you work like an 8-hour day job and you have an hour commute each way, you get home and you don't have a lot of energy to do that. So that sucks. It rules in that, like, when I put a game up for sale and people buy it and people talk about it on Twitter, or like when people tweet at us about our podcasts, or like listen or like leave reviews, that is just like really, 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 really affirming. And it makes me feel like really amazing about all the effort that does go into it. So yeah.
That's awesome. So then I pose this question. Do you think, and I've thought about this quite a bit. So do you think that if it's something that you're like, this is something I can do and it's a monetary thing, is it something where, you know, now that you're doing it as your job and now you're trying to make it into this thing that you always wanted it to be, do you think that you would lose the hobby aspect of it, this is something I do to kind of relax and have fun. Now that it's your actual job, do you think it's something where you would take it on so head on that you would be like, you know, oh, maybe this wasn't right. I don't know how to frame it. It's just, I've been thinking about it a lot lately.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's something that I'm like worried about. I don't think that I'll have to worry about it for a while, just because like I don't make nearly as much as I do doing my day job as I do with games or podcasts. Like, and I don't think that I ever will, unfortunately. So I think it's like, it's a hypothetical right now. And I think that there would be that like anxiety of like, shit, I got to do this or I don't eat, or like what if people don't like this one, or like anything. Like having that tied into my ability to survive scares me. And the people who do this for like a full-time job, and like that's what they, you know, have as their living, like those people are brave, they are superheroes. Like my hat's off, because I don't know that it's something that I could do. That would just be very terrifying to me. That said, like there are many days, like I tell myself over and over, like I have enough on my to-do list, like on my I wish I could do this, that it would be 8 hours a day, you know, 7 days a week. Like I have so much that I want to do that I can't, that it could easily, you know, I would have enough to do as a full-time job. I would just need someone to give me the money for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody please give me the money for this, because I really want to do it.
Yeah.
Just because we have a comment here, Carl from N20 Games, he commented about, you know, trying to be creative and working 8 hours a day. So yeah, it's hard to, you know, it's hard enough to go to your job and and have enough mental capacity and physical energy to be like, you
Mhm.
know what, here's all of me, and then
Yeah.
come home and be like, okay, all right, so now I need to take whatever part I have left and make it into this awesome creative thing that everyone's gonna enjoy, you know. And
Mhm.
and sometimes, and I will admit it for myself, that sometimes I know that my brain goes, you know, and it's just like, nope, not today.
Yeah. Well, and that I think is where I lucked out. Like not everyone, has the same stress relief that everyone else does. And like for me, it is something that's relaxing, and it like I get energy out of doing game design, but only when I can like really devote big chunks of time to it. Like I can't do it in 5-minute spurts. Like I've tried, and A, it doesn't feel good, and B, I'm not happy with the results. But like if I can sit down and just like jam out for 2 or 3 hours, then I feel like a superhero, and I think I make stuff that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so talking about being creative and having this time to do it and stuff like that, like, you know, how much respect do you have to have for your partner and her for you to be like, you know what, you can take this time to do what you think that you need to do.
Hmm.
And has there been times, and I'm sure there has, but I want to ask anyway, that you're like, please, can I just have this moment to do these fun little things, even though I know that there are other things that we should be doing together?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think again I'm lucky. My partner's hobby is also writing. She runs a Tumblr role playing like group for a bunch of people who do like Harry Potter role playing. So she and her co-admin who lives in New York, that is what they do for fun. Is just sit down, do organizational work, which boggles my mind how they run it, because they have dozens of people that are involved, all like writing around the same events, writing with different characters. Like they their group has been going for 3 years, which is longer than literally any tabletop game that I've ever been a part of by at least 2 years. Um, but then also like doing the writing themselves, because like Lauren has multiple characters that she writes for, her co-admin has multiple characters that she writes for. So yeah, I think more often than not it's Lauren going, hey, I'm gonna have some writing time today, and me going, nice, sweet, I'm gonna also do some writing time today. um yeah, so I think we've really just like gelled together in terms of interests that our hobby times can interact that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what's your favorite moment, or um like, yeah, I think moments probably sets it straight. Like, what's your favorite moment that you and Lauren have actually had when you've, taken these awesome nerdy things and like made it into something that it's like, okay, we went to this, or we saw this, or we wrote this.
Hmm. Yeah. So through doing this RP, she's become like really amazing friends with her co-admin. So they met in a different RP server. They are now like the best of friends. Um, and we've gone out to New York a few times to go visit. And that has just been phenomenal. And the last time that we went out, I brought Alex Roberts for the Queen, and we played with Amanda, who's the co-admin, and Amanda's boyfriend Jesse, and Lauren and I. And like Lauren's not super into like tabletop or like role play when it's outside of writing. She much prefers being able to like be slow and deliberate with character choices, with word choices. Like writing is perfect for her because she can be specific and intentional with every word. Whereas like with role playing, it's like you have that pressure to be on the spot and come up with something to say right then.
Mhm.
Um, Before the Queen, I think was a game that really helped her feel more comfortable with role playing, and it was something that she got to share with like her co-admin and best friend. And I mean, Amanda's one of my best friends now. Um, so that was something that was really cool to see. Um, and then Amanda is also doing like novel prep for NaNoWriMo, and is using for the Queen to like help blot out stories, like using the questions in that game to inspire character choices and like backstories and stuff. It's been really cool seeing everything kind of like blossom out of that game. It was awesome.
That is cool. That is awesome. So as we kind of wrap up here, I just want to ask you one final question. So like, and I think I might have talked about this before with you, but I always love talking about what people are most proud of. So what's the one thing that you're most proud of that you've made that's out there in the universe that you're like, I can't believe this is something that I've done and that people have consumed, that it's just like, just makes your day.
Yeah. So I think there's two answers to this one. The one that I think is probably like top of mind is Descent into Midnight, which is the game that I'm working on with Richard Kreitz Landry and Rich Howard. You can find it on online at descentintomidnight.com. It's the biggest, hands down, the biggest project that I've worked on. And it has really been like, it's been really cool. I don't have the right words to say like how cool it's been, but like it's been really, really cool to see people engage with that. Like people on Twitter are playing this game and talking about it and like running events for it. We had like a writer's workshop retreat. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they used like the world creation and character creation as their like icebreaker for it. And we had something like 6 or 7 tables all doing it, and like seeing the pictures from that and be like, I did that game, has been phenomenal. And like through that experience, being able to meet people in the industry, and like getting more involved in other projects because of that. So like I played in a game of Blue Planet by Jeff Barber a few years ago at Gen Con because Rich Howard is a big fan of that game. And like getting involved with Jeff and his projects. I'm a playtester in the new version of Blue Planet, and maybe more. We'll see. And like that has been really cool. Something that I'm really proud of, like just kind of individually, is this is a game about fishing, which is online right now. An early access version of it is online on my itch.io page, riverhousegames.itch.io. And that is a game about like queer eco punks trying to like get retribution against like the billionaires who killed the world. So it's kind of been on my mind for the past couple of years of like, hey, climate change is this real and immediate thing. And, I think that it's been easy to sell ourselves the story of like, well, if I just use fewer plastic straws, I can make a difference. Or like, if I, only flush the toilet when I poop, I can make a difference. When in reality, like the thing that is killing our oceans and our rivers and our lakes is 12 people. Like a dozen billion, I say it in the game, like a dozen billionaires killed the world and they have names and addresses. And this is a game that's just like celebrates being able to say like, hey, fuck you. Like it's a game of like queer punks who are just stealing from the rich, living their best lives, and then also like coming face to face with the ghosts of like the extinct fish. Like climate change is going to happen. Our oceans are going to die. We're going to lose a lot. And so it's this game about like facing that reality, but then also saying like, hey, there are people who did this, and like it is cathartic to take something back from them. Not just like, not, I want to go beyond like, hey, it's acceptable to like do whatever. I think eco-terrorism is very complicated, but at the same time, like maybe it's okay to throw a wrench into a tractor. And this is a game about fishing. I'm very proud of it. I think it is maybe the game that I think looks the best out of the stuff that I've made. And it's also one of my like maybe my personally favorite like pieces of writing that I've ever done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like it. It's funny because when I think of role playing, like my brain has a tough time not going down one area. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing I enjoy the most about the stuff that you come up with is that it is stuff that makes, unfortunately, my brain is very simple. I'll say that right now. I'm sure there's other times that it's not, but sometimes it is. And then when it comes to stories and stuff like that, that's kind of where my mind is going. I'm trying to be better at that. And I love experiencing the things that you do, because when you do them, it makes me think about other things that I wouldn't normally ever think about. And I like that that's the thing.
Yeah, we all have unique and like individual perspectives on the world, and I would say the same to you. Like, there are conversations that we have had that, you've inspired me to think about something in a new and particularly unique way. I want to celebrate all the stuff that everyone has inside of them. And I think that that's something that you've been able to, really help me with. Like, I feel very strongly in the stuff that I've been able to do with you that I've been able to fulfill on that part of my passion. Like the game that we've made together, breaking the fourth wall in the fifth dimension. And like every time that I've come on for like fantasy improv and like talking with you about stuff, like the bar for entry for this art form has never been lower. Both in terms of like participating in it as either someone who is facilitating a game or playing in a game, or even just like finding and reading and enjoying a game. But then also from like the side of people who are producing this content, like it's never been easier to put your idea into reality for tabletop. And that, like, my goal is to say, you can do this. Like, whatever wild bonkers idea you've got, make it real. I love it. If it's from you, it's incredible. And so, like, thank you for saying that you enjoy the ideas that I have produced, but then also B, thank you for being an active party in both supporting and actively creating things with me.
Perfect. Well, we're going to be done now because I'm going to start crying. So time to shut it off. No. Awesome. I love all the feels. All the feels are great.
Hell yeah.
So, I usually don't like to do this at the end, but I want to anyway, just so people can experience. So if they want to find out more about what you're doing, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so I am on Twitter at Leviathan Files. It's LeviathanFiles. You can also find my games on riverhousegames.itch.io. You can find the podcast that I make on whatever podcast app you've got. Game Closet is the informal chat share with queer and LGBT plus tabletop creators. RSS Defiant is our Deep Space Nine podcast. Apple Bottom V is a Minnesota Vikings podcast. So those are like the big areas. I guess I have a website, riverhousegames.com. I haven't updated since January. I should really get on that. And then you can find Descent into Midnight at descentintomidnight.com.
Yeah, and definitely check out Descent into Midnight, because I've played it with Taylor, and it's a lot of fun, and I wish you guys would be done with it already so I can have it in physical form in front of me. I want it.
Nothing's stopping you from printing out the playtesting materials, Kurt.
I want it in front of me. I like physical stuff so I can be like, I love this. It's my baby. I can have it now. But eventually it will happen. And I know you guys.
And that's an important point to say, is like, you can go play this game right now on descentintomidnight.com. All of our material that we have made for the game is right now available for free for you to go and grab. What we do ask is that you just fill out a quick little survey if you've played or read it, that tells us your experience about it so that we can make it better.
Very cool. Yeah. And yeah, definitely go out there. You don't need a physical copy. Just print out the stuff, go have some fun. It's a lot of fun, believe me. So this has been another edition of the MF Lounge. Hopefully this kind of takes the little bite out of your day, and you can just have fun and sit and relax and have a conversation with us. So, or listen to a conversation of us. Unless you want to talk to it, you can talk to it if you want. But you can also, you can comment on the video. We'll always comment back. But again, thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. And hopefully we'll have another awesome guest for next week. So until next time, have a good night or morning or wherever you watch this.